Good morning, Parkrose United Methodist Church family. Pastor Andrew here. Just want to stop in and say I love you and welcome into today's online Sunday service. Thank you for worshiping with us. Please make sure that you share with a friend and let everyone know that Parkrose Sunday service is available online on our website, YouTube, as well as Facebook. Moving forward for today's service, we've got a few announcements that we're going to make here in a little bit, as well as we're going to hear good music from Molly and Lesley, as well as David. And today's message you have to be excited about is from our Lay Leader, Anna Bonte. She has a very powerful message. As you know, we are under this series called Refocus, and she's going to really help us get refocused. So have your Bibles prepared. We are going to have fun with today's service. So I love you. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you here in a little bit. Good morning, Parkrose United Methodist Church family. Pastor Andrew here, and just want to give you a couple of quick announcements. Over the next 3 Sundays, you're going to be able to celebrate some of the music that you've heard us record already, because I'm going to be out of town for the next 3 Sundays. And so today's announcement, as I'm making the announcement, there's not a whole lot to announce, but I am asking you to cover us in prayer. I'm going to be going with Jess Billman, who you'll get a chance to hear a message from next week, as well as Leroy Barber. Both of those individuals are from the Innovation and Vitality team, as well as a friend of the UMC, Jonathan Brooks. So the 4 of us are going to be hitting the road, and we're going to be hitting swing states and different cities that we know have had issues with voter suppression, to go out into urban communities and different communities to try to drive out the vote, get individuals informed about how they can vote, and just help support the people in those communities who are doing things to try to spread the word. So we're going to be going to cities such as Detroit, Akron, Chicago, Charlotte. Let's see, there's also Pittsburgh, Tampa, Atlanta. We're going to be just going around the country, and we're going to make our way back here in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, we definitely need you to cover us in prayer every single step of the way, every day. We would appreciate that hedge of protection of just prayer and just knowing that you're praying for us. So with that being said, we also know that a lot of different things are going to come up, and I may not be able to make a few announcements, but we will. If there's something really big we need to make an announcement, we'll definitely make sure it's sent out through the prayer chain, or as well, we can also record a video and put it on YouTube if there's anything that we need to make a large announcement about. In the meantime, food pantry cycle is coming up, and so in this cycle for the food pantry, we need your help. As usual, there's always room for donations. Right now, we're sitting with plenty of boxes, thanks to Miss Elizabeth and a few other people who brought boxes and bags in for us. We're currently always in need of donations for meat, so if you can get with Sue, she can point you in the direction of what some of the needs are for the food pantry during this food pantry cycle. Also, coming up really soon in the next, within a month or so, you're going to start to see a few new faces on some of the Sunday services. We have a few people that are going to be doing some new things with the music and a few other things that's really exciting. They're going to come alongside Lesley and Molly, and it's going to be, an exciting new day for us. So there's a lot of really great things going on at Parkrose United Methodist Church. We're trying our best to make a transition into keeping this space, safe and sound as possible. So remember to be diligent to put your information down all the way when you come in. If something was to happen and I wasn't the person who could make the phone calls, we still need someone that will be able to, to look at the paper and say, here's this person's phone number or email. They wouldn't know that just, if something was to happen. So try to be diligent in making sure that you put down the phone number and the name when you are in the building for whatever reason. Over the next few weeks, as far as I know, is what's been communicated to me, that it's just the typical essential church business at this point right now. So if there is any reason that you think that you need to enter the building and you're not a part of the church staff in any way, please just reach out to us and let us know that you'll be in the building so that we can make sure that you know the rules, regulations, and that we are following all of the standards that we have to follow. Well, that's my announcements for this week. I love you. I just absolutely love you. Can't wait till we can get back together again and I get a chance to see you again. But until then, let's continue to enjoy our Sunday services online, and let's enjoy this beautiful music.
So God, as we step into an uncertain future, we just want to say out loud that we need you. For the dark nights ahead and the dry deserts, the deep valleys, for the shattered dreams and the broken promises, you see what we can't see, and you know what we can't know, and you heal what we can't heal. And so God, we need you. We need you to walk with us, we need you to guide us, and we need you to carry us. And so we forsake 1,000 lesser options and 1,000 lesser saviors, and we sing to you and you alone, and we look to you and you alone, and we run to you and you alone. And so we join with a choir of saints and angels all throughout the earth and all throughout every generation, and we worship you and you alone, Jesus. We don't know what tomorrow is gonna look like, but we know about eternity. And it's all about you, Jesus. It's all about you. And so we worship. We worship.
Hey, Parkrose, I'm Anna Bonte here, the Lay Leader, and I have to tell you that I'm so glad for the last several weeks we've been focusing on refocusing, because there's been a lot going on. First it was COVID, then it's protesting and rioting in our area, and now all of a sudden the West Coast is on fire and there's smoke all over the place, and it's a really good time for all of us to refocus on who God is and what God means to all of us. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I've been having trouble focusing this week with so much smoke in the air, and I have sinus issues and my head is just all murky. But thankfully, I have God's word. And for me, I don't know about you, but when I need to just get back to who God is, get back to who I am in relationship with to God, I go to creation. I was really fortunate to grow up like 20 miles from the Pacific Ocean. So as a kid, I spent a lot of time on the beach. When I was in college, I spent a lot of time hiking the Columbia River Gorge. Also in college, I worked at Crater Lake National Park, as some of you know. And God's creation has always centered me. It's always brought me back to who he is. Truly, it's how I worship him the most, is by going to his creation. So I hope you'll take this journey with me as we go through Genesis 1. And Genesis 1 is really so much about who God is. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take sections, and then I'm just going to share kind of my thoughts about what I see about God in these in this first chapter. So anyway, in my Bible it says the beginning. So I'm going to do, like I said, sections. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So imagine just the ocean, but nothing else. And it's just darkness. But God is there. God, you actually see that God has always existed. You see, and it's so cool that when I first learned this, I thought that this was so fantastic, that you see the Blessed Trinity right in Genesis 1:1. Because you see the Father, you see the Spirit, and believe it or not, Jesus is there. And I'll get to that in a little while. But so God has always existed. And then we have this big, dramatic, beautiful, like symphony start where it says, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw the light was good. He separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was evening and there was morning, and he said it was good. So can you imagine? It's like a firework exploding in the air, because remember, it was formless and empty, and all of a sudden there's this light, and it's just, it's like creation came into being with this big boom of light. So then it says, and God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening and there was morning of the second day. Now, I don't know about you, but the smoke the last week has been really hard. And I look up in the atmosphere and I'm like, okay, I just want to see some blue sky. I just want to see the sun. I just want to see maybe some stars, because I know they're up there. But the atmosphere was so heavy, and it made my heart heavy too. I know so many people who have been impacted by the wildfires, and I've been trying to keep a good attitude because I'm not losing my home, I'm not losing all my worldly possessions, but still, to just be able to take a breath of fresh air would be so lovely. So today it's Friday, it's raining, and I'm just like, oh, praise Jesus for that rain, because the atmosphere is clearing. And so how sweet it is to take a breath of fresh air, right? So let's continue. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear. And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and gathered waters he called seas. And God saw it was good. Now, I don't know if you've ever been asked, are you a mountain person? Are you a desert person? Are you an ocean person? Well, I'm definitely, hands down, an ocean person. Like I said, I grew up near the Pacific Ocean, and there's something about just sitting on the sand and watching the tides come in and go out, and just seeing the power of God and who God is. He made this beautiful coastline that we get to see, but I think I'm like, there has to be a God, because how does the ocean know to just stop where it's at? And so truly the beauty and the power of the ocean has always caused me to worship God. I know many of you at Parkrose have been to Camp Magruder on the Pacific Ocean, and I went to camp there several times. And there's a cross right there where you go out on the beach. And it's always reminded me that God is so truly with us all the time. And I'm so glad that I learned that at camp too. But also, when we went to Camp Magruder, we always learned the power of the tides and the power of that rip tide that can pull you down. And it just reminds me of the power of God, and that the ocean is dangerous and treacherous, but it's just because it's so powerful, and so is God. So then God said, starting at verse 11, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land, and bear fruit with seeds in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seeds according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit and seed according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning on the third day. So isn't it beautiful that God gives us what we need? And by giving seeds to those plants, he lets us continue to grow vegetation and produce. And I had a professor in college that would always talk about how you can tell someone about God, but it's better to experience God. And imagine with me just biting into a peach and how delicious it is, and how you can't describe the taste of a peach. It's better to hand somebody a peach and say, here, you can taste and see that the Lord is good, because this peach is so juicy and delicious. And I've always loved that so much. So God gives us what we need by giving us vegetation, by giving us delicious cucumbers and beautiful strawberries and juicy peaches. So then I'm at verse 14. It says, and God said, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, days, and years. and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light to the earth. And it was so. So God gave us two great lights, the lesser light to govern the night, and the greater light to govern the day. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God said it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. So think about the sun and with the sun, it lights up our world, right? Think about the beauty of the moon, you know, and the moon is where we get our seasons and we get, you know, our sacred times, right? And I've always loved that God made the moon before he made the birds, because God always makes things in perfect harmony. So if we didn't have the moon, the birds wouldn't know how to migrate. And it's just, you know, I love how the Bible and science, how they come together. They don't contrast. And you can be a scientist and you can be a lover of God both. So now let's talk about the creatures. So God said, let the water teem with living creatures and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which water teems and moves around in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas. Let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning on the fifth day. I've always wanted to go to Africa on safari and see some of these really great creatures like lions and tigers and bears in their habitat, you know, but I also think of the beauty of a deer. I don't know about you, but when I'm driving down the road and a deer is, you know, on the side of the road, I'm just like, because of my love for God, I just want to stop and gaze and wonder at the fact that God created this beautiful creature, you know, but I feel the same way about a really cute little puppy or, you know, a baby, you know, elephant. I mean, don't you love it on the news when we see baby elephants born, because they're so cute and they're so beautiful. And, you know, it just reminds us that God, you know, made them, you know, to fill the earth, you know, and for us to enjoy them, you know, and to give us food, right? And I also love, you know, when you're in the ocean and you're looking for dolphins and you're looking for whales, and, you know, God also made them to be with their own kind. So you don't have, you know, elephants and alligators, you know, together, but you have alligators and alligators together. And that's why it's saying, you know, to be with their own kind, you know, but they still live in harmony, like in the jungle, and they live in harmony in the Sahara, right? But anyways, and again, back to the birds, you know, and the moon, and how everything in creation works in perfect harmony. So, okay, so let's continue with creatures. And it says, and God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move alongside the ground, the wild animals. So God even made snakes, even the creepy crawly kind. And God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground, like snakes. And God saw that it was good. So truly, I think that the reason that I want to go on safari in Africa is that animals and nature move us to worship God. His creativity, he takes such good care of the animals. I mean, look at the care he's giving to these animals. And if God takes such good care of animals, think of how much more he cares for us. And that just causes me to worship him. So let's continue. So this is my favorite part. It says, then God said, let us make mankind in our own image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So this is where let's rest on the word us, because remember in verse 1, it says the Spirit of God was there, that God was there, God the Father, but I said that Jesus was there too. And we know this because in the Gospel of John, it says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So Jesus, he's talking about Jesus here. He was with God in the beginning. Through him, all things were made. So our creation story. And without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So imagine Jesus has always been with God the Father and with God the Spirit. God created, but Jesus is the Word. So imagine every time God said, let there be, let there be, let there be. That's Jesus speaking these things into being. So we're reminded that the Trinity has always been there, but Jesus has always been part of the process. He's always been there helping God make. So when Jesus came to earth to live among us, he knows everything. He knows everything that we need, everything that we want, all of our desires, everything. And so isn't that so comforting? And he's the light. So he's the light that overcame the darkness. So in the very beginning of the symphony of creation, Jesus bursts onto the scene as light. And it's just so wonderful. So it says, and this part, I love it so much too. So it says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Let's just stop right there and think that we are made in the image of the creator of the mountains, of the rivers, of the desert, of all the beautiful animals, of the sun and the moon, the stars, everything beautiful in creation that you can imagine, every beautiful rainbow that you've looked at. The one that created, or the God that created, the triune God that created, made us in his image. We are his image bearers. We carry his name. We are so precious to him that he would do anything for us. Going to the lengths of sending his son to die on a cross so we could be freed from the sin, because sin is part of sin is part of our story, unfortunately, but God, even from the beginning, had a plan to redeem us and restore us. And so I just want you to remember that if you're struggling ever, that you need to remind yourself that you are an image bearer of the creator of all things. And I can't think of anything better than that, than the fact that I get to carry the image of the creator of God Almighty, and that I need to rest in the fact that I'm so precious to him that he put his own image and his own stamp of approval on me. So let's continue. So God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground. And he gave us every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit and seed in it. They will be our food. So God's providing. And to all the beasts of the earth and the birds of the sky, everything that has breath, we have been given. And God, so this is the finale of the creation story. It says, God saw that he had everything that he had made and said it was a very good. So you recall, as God is making the sun, the moon, the stars, the creatures of the ground, he said that it was good, but after he made us, he said it was a very good. And there was evening and there was morning on the sixth day. So I don't know about you, but creation causes me to worship. It causes me to remember that God made all these wonderful things, and he's still creating. Every baby that's born, he's still creating. And, so the heart of worship is understanding who God really is. I love this story of this worship leader at a church, and the church was getting a little out of hand when it came to what kind of music they wanted to listen to. Some people wanted one kind, and other people wanted another kind. And what happened is that instead of worshiping God, the music became more important. So one day he's like, you know what? We need to get back to the heart of who God is. And it's not about music. It's not about the pews. It's not about all the things all the little details that make up a church. But God is the reason we're here. And what happened is the church had this awakening because they remembered who God was. And I'm sure that they looked at the creation story. I'm sure that they looked at all the attributes of God. And I think that we need to remember, especially in such hard times that we're living in, because we all have to admit that 2020 has thrown us all for a lot of loops. We've had, COVID, we've had political unrest, it's an election year, and now all the wildfires that are affecting our communities and neighbors. It's really hard to really focus, but I hope that today that you've remembered that God is a God that's always creating. He's reminding of us of the beauty of the earth. He's our creator, our redeemer, our sustainer, and our provider. And I'm so grateful, and I bet you are too, that he gives us beautiful mountains to look at, powerful oceans to marvel at, and he gave us his image, and we are so precious to him. So will you pray with me? Dear God, thank you so much. Thank you for the birds in the sky, the precious atmosphere that lets us breathe. But even when the smoke comes in, God, you've provided roofs over our heads, and food to put in our bellies. And even when times are tough, we need to focus on you and who you are. And your beautiful creation always brings me back. It always brings me back to who you are. And thank you so much for allowing me to be your image bearer. It's just so humbling sometimes to know that I'm your ambassador, that you call me yours, and that means that to the rest of the world, I should let them know that I'm yours, that you are mine. And God, as we are just going through so many challenges this year, help us remember that whether we can be in church together or not even in church together and having to do things in a whole different way, that it's really all about you and who you are. And God, when these times pass, because they will, we still are, your image bearers. And we have a lot of work to do because there's so many people that are hurting. And let us be good ambassadors of your image. In your name, amen.